Hello everyone, myself Shuchi Khanna. Today I'll be talking about factors related to organization development. Why do companies have to change if they have to change? We are all living in a world that seems to be in punctuation and no equilibrium. When I say this, I mean that it is not a straight line like an ICU. Change is happening in the world at a rate which we are not even aware of. Change is multifaceted. Change is relentless and sometimes occasionally shocking. Today, the most important question for any organization is that are we changing really fast as the world is changing, or are we slow? If you ask me, being a part of a corporate industry for last 14 years, my answer to this question would be no. In 2005 McKinsey study, it was pointed out that today's market leader stand 30% chance of being toppled within 5 years, which meant that today's market leader, if do not change with times, they have 30% more chance to be overtaken by an organization who is ready to change. This is probably 3 times more than what it used to be a few decades. So change, my friend, is very important for the following reason. Change is necessary for any organization because a business would like to lose its competitive edge, unable to meet the needs of growing base of loyal customers. So for any organization to survive in this relentless, dynamic, world-changing process, the organizations have to change. If they do not change, they lose their competition. They lose their customers. Their customers will look on for some better services somewhere across the same industry. So the change becomes very important. Now, the very important part is, what are the factors which are affecting change? Now, there are 2 sides of factors. One is external factor and the other is internal factor. The external factor talks about areas which influence the organization from the outside perspective. Sometimes as an organization, I'm doing very well, but the environment around me is changing. There's a turmoil, there is a change in the economy, there is a change in the external factor, there is a tornado or an earthquake. These are external factors which are forcing my organization to actually change. So, citing one of the top 5 external reasons of factors affecting change are technology, customer needs, economy, political and legal changes, and growth opportunities. Now, the second factor which affects an organization change is internal. Now, this internal change could be a change in the organization structure. Maybe a CEO is replaced by a new CEO, or there are layoffs happening in the organization structure. Suddenly the organization thinks that the middle level managers have become redundant. So they talk about taking that middle line and bringing the bosses directly working with the supervisors, or lack of efficiency, or a nature of workforce. Suddenly we realize in the organization that we have employees who are above 50. But in order to serve our customers, we have to have young, energetic employees, and we decide to hire. So the nature of workforce starts changing, or a stage of a status quo, which means there is no change happening. The organization is just moving on the straight line. And to end this, I would like to say, if the organization is moving on the same line, it will soon die its natural death. They have to change. They have to make an effort to go ahead and do something new. External factors, let's talk about all the factors now in detail. Technology. Now, this change happens because of a new technology which has to be brought in the organization, which leads to better productivity and service. As the world evolves, customer needs change and grow. They create new demand for new types of products and services. Today, if I remember, in 2000s, we just went ahead and started, we had one place to go and buy our daily needs shop, and we had to go there. Today, the change is that there are the availability of such one-stop solution is taken care by bigger groups. So there is a lot of changes that we see when we go ahead. Earlier, my mom, if you remember, used to just go and buy fruits from one area, then vegetables from some other area, then maybe spices that she needed to make her food delicious from some other area. Today, we have market stores which has starting from your child's diaper to probably an aeroplane also someday. So that's the customer need. Now the customer doesn't want, they don't have time, they don't have energy, so they want everything to be available. Now that was a need that was actually decided the organization to bring up one-stop solution for marketplaces. So as the world evolves, customer needs to change and grow. They need to create demand for new types of products and services. And as a result, opening of new areas of opportunity for companies to meet those needs. Now, just imagine if the organization, if the companies at that point of time had decided, no, look, I'm going to sell only vegetables, I'm going to sell only fruits. Some other company decides, no, I'm going to give everything to the customer. So, as a mother, what will be the choice of the lady who has just half an hour to spend on buying a vegetable, plus the spices, plus everything, plus a Coke bottle or everything? So she would prefer going to that new marketplace where she gets everything. So if this organization did not change, they will end up in losing its competitive edge. They will end up in losing its loyal customer base. Economy has a very major role to play in deciding the organization change. A stable organization actually takes care when the economy is very strong. A strong economy and increasing demand for products and services will mean that companies must consider expansion, which may involve addition of staffs and new facilities. When the economy is strong, when the economy is great going, then the customer demands will go up. If the customer demands go up, they would be needing new facilities, new staff to make sure that the expansion is taken care of, and the need. A weak economy can actually create a problem where it can impact employee salary and benefits and even threaten their jobs. 2008 recession, everybody remember? So many people lost their job. So a weak economy leads to the organization change. A stronger economy calls for more expansion and therefore more organization change. Political and legal changes. Unstable political scenario. You do not have a majority government. You have a Mili-Juli Sarkar that we called about. So all these legal changes can also talk about or bring about organization change. Growth opportunities. Change is important in organization to allow employees to learn new skills, explore new opportunities, or exercise the creativity so that they make sure that the employee is not only retained in the system but is utilized in a better way. Internal factors. Change in the organization structure. A new CEO joining in, an old manager replaced by a new one, a new idea that suddenly clicks in, a new thought process. Lack of efficiency, very important, lack of efficiency in the organization. Bureaucratic style of working, lack of coordination, very low communication, unmanageable span of management. For every job done, there's one executive and he or she has 5 other HODs too. So it's an unmanageable span of management that leads to internal factor changes. New generation with new ideas, complex behaviors lead to organization change. Stage of status quo. Any organization, if coming at a stage of inertia, will lead to degrowth. As I said earlier also in this PPT, that any organization, if they do not change, if they have reached a stage of status quo, that for an X number of things, they get a Y number of profit, and it keeps on happening for years, then the organization there will be a stage that will be coming which will lead to the degrowth in the organization structure. Organizations, for them to remain competitive, for them to survive in this turbulent environment, they have to remain dynamic. Now, very important is, you will definitely ask me, how many types of changes an organization undergo? Now, organization changes can be of many facets. I'm trying to cover only top 5 which I felt were very important for you to understand, so that an organization development picture becomes clear. And why do we really need an organization development? So, to first summarize certain types of changes, one is an organization-wide change, the other is transformational change, third is personal change, fourth is unplanned change, and fifth is remedial change. I'm going to talk about the first type of change, which is an organization-wide change. Now, this type of an organization-wide change is generally restructuring or resizing. This is generally accompanied when the company is hiring, maybe because of better economy, or leading to employees' layoff, maybe because of a weaker economy. Whatever the reason could be, it brings a change in the employee culture. It tends to affect the groups and the individual. And an organization plan change is for a very long time. It's not quick, it's not immediate, it's not like a 2 minutes noodle, instant noodle. It's for an extended period of time, and it definitely calls for proper planning and execution. Strategic changes. Now, there can be two types of organization changes. One could be a strategic change. A strategic change could be a change in the mission statement, a change in the vision statement of the organization, or a process-oriented change. Process-oriented change could be due to technological developments, due to automation. Suddenly, as nature, I decide that I'm done with my paperwork. I now want to bring in Kaizoks, which help the employees not to directly come to HR, but if they want to see their earned leaves or casual leave status, they just do it at a click of a button. So that's the need for the process to get changed, and as a result, it tends to change the organization. Very important is that it should be noted that irrespective of the type of change that is undertaken, whether it is a process oriented or a strategic change happening at an organization wide, all of them would affect the organization culture. As a result, will affect the way the employees and the individuals are behaving in the system. Second is transformational change. Now, this transformational change is something that can actually affect the organization from the top guy, which is the CEO, till the last cadre of the employee. The entire hierarchy of the organization can be affected by this transformational change. In this sort of a change, the company can decide to examine, dismantle the entire process, and then regroup it again. They may think of just going ahead with deciding that the external consultant has said that you have too many managers, and therefore as an organization I decided to let go of them middle level managers. Now, these changes generally bring in profitability. They improve the bottom lines, they improve the margins of the organization. The opposite of this sort of a particular change is an incremental change. Now, an incremental change, transformational is like a major change, incremental could be slow changes. Government offices, let's say, they never had computers to work with. So instead of just changing the individual, they thought about bringing new computers, new systems, or transferring of one duty of one person to another. So these are little incremental changes. No matter how many sort of changes that you bring in, as it happens in organization-wide change, in transformational changes also, the impact is always individual. Third type of change is personal change. With ever-increasing number of layoffs in the many organizations, the remaining employee, now you see that there is a lot of exodus of employees happening. Maybe due to attrition, they decide to leave, they decide to quit. The balance employees that are remaining in the system suddenly feel they have low morale. They become distrustful for the management. They are generally tend to looking for a greener pasture. Now, I'll just share an example of this personal change. When we are all aware, this Supreme Court banning the diesel vehicles in Delhi, and that's exactly the kind of personal change everybody was going through, that why should I be staying in an organization where the major crux is, where the major stock is of diesel vehicle, and suddenly the government has banned the diesel vehicle, so why should I stay up? And suddenly if one or two people employees, the employees who are back end, they start seeing the organization with a distrustful eyes, that maybe now the scenario is changing and the organization will now change, and therefore they may start looking for a greener pasture. Fourth, very important, unplanned change. Now, this is something that you don't plan for. Suddenly an earthquake hits the organization, or a tornado comes in, or a tsunami comes in, and a natural disaster for a manufacturing unit, and you find that everything that you just decided goes haywire. So that's an unplanned change. A few days back, if you remember, the entire Japan, when it was hit by a tsunami, they had to undergo the entire, and the parts and everything of the manufacturing units that they had to close it down, they had to shut it down, because the company was hit by a natural disaster. Now, generally, the worth noting part of these changes that they are very chaotic. It just happens suddenly, and it is very expensive because the time is running by. The organization has to make quick changes to make sure that they do not lose the market share. They have to be very quick so that they start making some sort of an economic sense. It cannot be. It is definitely on a short-term basis, but they do not provide a very major solution. So it's more of a concurrent or a quick solution that they give to a current problem. Last but not the least, the remedial changes. Now, these changes are forced upon the organization because they have been really performing poor for very last year. They could be cutting down on that budgetary allocations. They could be stopping a particular production. They could be having a company expansion. Now, these changes are generally happening because they want to make sure that the organization sustains itself in the market. If it doesn't sustain itself in the market, then the organization will. Remedial changes are generally quite swift, and it generally comes as a surprise for most of the employees from middle to low cadre manager. Such scenario usually calls for a change which is more developmental type and may involve variety of tasks, such as it is done to ensure that the employee satisfaction is enhanced or to improve customer retention numbers. So finally, any type of change that we have to acknowledge that every type of change does have some effect on the organization. Now, whether it is organization-wide, whether it's transformational, whether it is personal, whether it is unplanned or remedial, every organization tends to have some impact on the people. As an organization, we have to manage that change positively and ensure that the changes are envisaged in a positive way. Now, if you remember, the last topic that we discussed was the role of a change agent, the role of a manager. That becomes very important during these changes. So I will be sharing what is the role is that it develops organization development, design and development strategies based on company's goal. They help in defining change management process to improve business performance. The role of a manager is that they help in building positive and achievement-oriented working environment for employees. They develop and enforce company policies and procedures. So the minute the organization change happens due to any of the reasons that I have cited out, and at any level, the types of changes that I have discussed, the role of the change agents becomes very, very important. It talks about development. It talks about taking the team together. It talks about building a culture where people are actually seeing change as a part of something that will bring good in them, the organization wide. So the role of the change agent becomes very, very critical. My next topic on this would be OD interventions. Thank you for patiently listening to me. If you like the video on Edupedia, do subscribe to us on our channel, which is Edupedia World. And for more videos, you can log on to www.edupediaworld.com. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.